guys, hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of People in the Room. I'm Matt, the illustrious host, and these are these are the pastors. That sounded very weird. I'm sorry. I'm not my pastors. These are.
We're Bible nerds.
I guess I would say my pastor if I went to this church, but oh well. I don't know. Anyways, since we're already all discombobulated, let's introduce ourselves real quick.
Hi, I'm Pastor Paul. I'm the digital outreach pastor here at Scott Lake Baptist Church.
I'm the lead pastor, Pastor John.
I'm Matt, speaker of words and IT major.
Yeah, and we have photo evidence he has a tiny head.
I'll have to add that. Thanks, now I have to add that into the stream.
And I'm Pastor Brian. I'm also an outreach pastor here at Scott Lake Baptist Church.
I did want to ask, are you, well, I probably should have asked off camera. I'll edit it out if I haven't, but where have you been for the last 2 months? I haven't seen you.
Busy.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
And I mean, we've actually missed quite a few Sundays even because we've been traveling and doing other stuff. So yeah.
I mean, hey.
He also is a pastor in Ohio, as well, and he goes down there and does baptisms, and then a lot of times he'll do a nursing home or rehab facility during the daytime. Yeah. So usually at this time he's sleeping, and
that's fair.
And he's ready for bed, and you know what I'm saying. So he's
and I get up for work. I get up for work at about 4:30, 5 o'clock every day, so.
Okay, major respect for showing up to this then, because I think it's already cutting into your sleeping time.
Very much going to cut into my sleeping time.
Okay, well, let me actually just get a timer going here so we can actually keep this at 45 minutes here, so we can let you get to bed at a reasonable hour.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
And the wife will love you for that.
We're like 40 because we've already done 5.
I mean, we'll do 42.
Okay.
Because I like having weird arbitrary numbers there. It just makes me feel different.
We probably only did 3 anyway, so.
We're back. We got the alarm set.
That's true, yeah. And so when I haven't had it set up yet. I need to make like a quick. I guarantee I can make a quick script on my computer or something like that. That'll start like playing the music a bit like slowly louder over the course of a minute, which I think would be a lot better than an abrupt like thing.
Nice.
I don't know. We'll see though.
Could be done.
Yeah. As if I
cut,
remember.
copy, paste.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyone from our previous episode will understand that.
So I do want to jump in on something I think that would help our thinking on temptation. If your mindset is legalistic and you succumb to temptation.
That's a lot of big words right off the bat. I had something I wanted to discuss that would kind of lead in a bit. But I like where you're going. I like the doctrine. I like the hardcore doctrine. Just a few more minutes in, you know what I mean?
So the brain power.
I'm thinking about the poor person that feels like they're a failure.
And yeah, definitely we will be getting to that.
They need to be encouraged.
But in a way, though, I think a lot of us think that we're failures.
That's the devil over here.
Go for it. You know, my you just blew my example out the water there.
Yeah.
Boom.
So
darn it.
So we've talked about temptation as something that happens inside of you, in your mind, where you're tempted to do something you shouldn't. And there's some very striking, difficult, direct temptations, and there's some very subtle temptations. And I think the philosophy that we discussed is having a mind that's able to think rationally about these things with some values in your life and a purpose. You mentioned you were tempted, or someone offered you drugs, and you knew that wasn't a direction you were going in life.
Yeah,
because you had done some thinking, and you had.
And it's funny. It's funny too. It didn't play out like those old PSAs that I was shown as a kid. You know, it didn't play out at all like that.
No,
nobody was laughing at me. There wasn't a big group of people. It was just a dude. He was like, "Hey, you want some?" I'm like, "Nah, no thanks." He's like, "Okay, cool."
Let's pick on Matt for a second.
Why?
In a hypothetical.
Tiny head.
So no, the thing that Matt did was very good.
Do not put that video online.
Oh, it's too late. It's gonna happen.
Thing that Matt did was very good. He said no to drugs. It wasn't maybe difficult because it wasn't too alluring to you. But now we're going to suggest that there's a temptation that makes it stronger for you to try those drugs. Maybe the guy was a little closer to you, and maybe there's someone you respected, and maybe come up with your scenario of what might make the temptation stronger.
Might have been a good-looking girl.
Might have been a girl.
I mean,
hey.
It could have been a lot of things.
Sure. So at some point, the threshold of your resistance caves, and you succumb. So how do we help our brother here?
So wait, that's interesting that you say that. The threshold. Because I know, like, without God, it's not possible to resist the devil. But can you go into that more?
Yeah. So 30 years from now, you're going to be an older person, and you'll have gone down the road of life and a lot more experiences, and some of your vigilance and guarding your heart will have been attacked, and at some point the temptation that comes, it could be drugs, it could be whatever, but I want to get to a scenario where I think all of us could succumb to temptation, right? Peter boldly and honestly said, I will die with you and I will never deny you. Then a little later he was sitting around a campfire and some little girl says, hey, aren't you one of them? No, I don't know what you're talking about. So at some point,
was it a little girl or was it a woman?
Well, I think it started with a little slave girl. Or something.
Yeah, a little slave girl. Yeah. So at some point, Peter's when Peter said, I will die with you, and he pulled that sword out and he struck that ear off of that guy, he was sincere. He was ready to die with Jesus. But the night went on, Jesus was taken away, he had some thinking to do, he followed at a distance, he sat around the charcoal fire, and someone said, hey, aren't you one of those guys? And he denied the Lord 3 times.
That's interesting that you say he had some thinking to do, because I've noticed too, temptation loves to strike when you're not really doing much else. You know what I mean? When you're just kind of sitting around, you got not much else going on or something. It's like, hey, why don't you try this?
Peter denied the Lord 3 times. The Lord looked up at him and said, that glance was, see, told you. Yeah. Peter was depending on Peter for the Lord to be successful.
That's true.
Right?
What?
Peter...
That's a great point.
It's a very great point.
Peter was depending on Peter for the Lord to be successful.
Oh, so you're saying he was depending on his ability to fight off the other guy?
Yeah.
In that field.
So okay. I want to give Peter a break. Peter felt horrible. The Lord looked at him and he wept bitterly.
Yeah, and I think that those words, he wept bitterly, are the truest, like, showing of his character. Right?
So now, as we're picking on Matt, 30 years from now, the drug temptation, just to throw any silly temptation out there, I'm sure it's not going to happen, but somehow, the back pain and the having the oxys, and now it's, oh man, and now you're in trouble, right? I failed, man. What do? You failed to withstand the temptation. Peter failed to withstand the temptation.
We all can fail to withstand the temptation.
I think we all can. We are vigilant to a point, and we get tired, or we get distracted, or something happens. Every one of us could be a miserable failure. Every one of us. And not just to pick on Matt. I could be the miserable failure. That it's so important to realize that we're not legalistic automatons, right? There's a law, I won't do it, I'm going to kick in, and it's just going to be that. No. Peter depended on Peter for the Lord to succeed. Peter fell asleep, and 3 times.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the Lord is showing, I'm doing this, I got it, you can add nothing to salvation. I'm going to bring you with me because I love you. And then when Peter denied the Lord 3 times, the Lord came to him and also encouraged him. He said, when you return, encourage your brothers. So it's important to know that there is recovery after succumbing to temptation.
Yeah.
And to put a fine point on that, and we're going to delve deep into this topic for the next few minutes,
Well, it's probably going to be multiple episodes.
Yeah. But I just want to just kind of summarize a point there that we need to focus on, refocusing what he's saying. So he said, Jesus, when Peter failed, and there's no denying Peter failed, he did. Mm-hmm. Jesus, when Peter failed, restored him. He didn't go, Peter, what you did in the past was horrible, and I'm never forgiving you for that. No, he said, Feed my lambs, feed my sheep. Get up, Peter.
Yeah,
I love you, I love you, I love you. But most people, when they fail, they hear that voice in their ear, you're a failure, you're never going to amount to anything. Those are all lies from the devil. That's not Jesus, that's not God, because God says there's therefore no more condemnation. Yeah. So when we're being condemned about something that happened in our past, we're not living in the I am. That's the devil lying to you. Ignore him, kick him in the teeth, and get up and grab Jesus and get back in the I am. Get back in God's presence and be restored.
It's interesting that you say that, because that's making me think, because like, while God is always working, you can honestly say the reverse too, that the devil's always trying to work as well. Always. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I never really thought of this before. When you think about temptation and stuff, you just kind of think, oh, I guess the temptation stuff just like, he really just kind of buzzes off for a while after it's done. But no, he's still right there as soon as you fail in the temptation, saying, all right, you failed in this, God's never going to forgive you, run away. Yeah. Like he's just
that's
not
what Adam and
Eve
Eve tried to do. They tried to hide and run away, but God called out to them.
And yeah,
said, Adam, where are you?
Good point.
I've noticed too, especially in these last few weeks and stuff, I've definitely had I've had where that has been the temptation, is to run away from God. Mm-hmm. And I only, as of sadly pretty recently, was finally able to just shake it off and be like, no, I got to refocus myself.
Is it like that song, Shake It Off?
No, not at all.
No, okay, just checking. That's such an easy song to shake it off. But it doesn't really help very much when you got a problem and you did something and you knew you weren't supposed to do it, and you hear that voice that Pastor Brian was telling you, you're a failure. You can't do nothing. You are below dirt. You need to stay down there. You're gone. And the thing is as Jesus said, Peter, feed my lambs, come back, feed my lambs.
So, allow this thought. At one point, Peter was lifted up in confidence. I will die with you. I will never deny you. Yeah. And so what got Peter into that frame of mind to set him up for a failure? Was it?
Yeah, I could see that.
I think his enthusiasm was, I think he was totally sincere about that. Genuine. He said, Lord, command me to walk to you on the water. And he did. Then the eyes got off of the Lord and the waves and everything started to sink.
Well, I think pride could still be a thing where, he's sincere and enthusiastic, but he's getting a little puffed up about his own abilities.
Depending on himself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
When I depend on myself, I fail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yet, you're in the driver's seat of your life.
Right.
Right? So, how do you go humbly forward, not setting yourself up for a failure like Peter's, but yet staying fruitful and serving? Maybe John was an example, because John saw the Lord arrested. John was leaning on the Lord's breast at the Last Supper, the disciple that he loved. John was at the crucifixion with Mary, the closest of the disciples to the public event of Jesus' crucifixion.
Why do you think they let John up there, and why do you think Peter was so afraid? Because if they let John all the way up there, why was Peter afraid?
Peter was.
Didn't he take action against one of the guards? Like he was a guy that sliced somebody's ear off. Right?
Yeah, the high priest's servant's ear was cut off by Peter.
I can imagine if this was modern day, the police force would probably not be too keen on
looking for Peter.
Yeah.
Peter had every reason to be afraid that he might be arrested because someone would identify him as the one that.
Well, actually, I mean, John for being identified.
Jesus put the guy's ear back on, so where's the evidence? I mean, think about that. You're in a court of law. No, the man put the ear back on, so therefore it never happened.
And Jesus, in John, Jesus said, "Okay, you got me. Let these guys go." So Jesus actually protected his disciples.
That's interesting.
And he said that of all that the Lord gave me in that prayer in John 17, I have lost none.
I was actually reading that my study Bible that was making a point about that, and I had never really thought about the fact that that there's like Judas essentially rocks up with a whole like platoon of soldiers and stuff like that with weapons and torches and stuff, and like I just kind of thought, oh, they had that stuff, whatever. But the stuff I was reading actually was like, notice that. Yeah. They were thinking that they were going to have to really fight these people to actually get to Jesus. But the fact that he was just so peacefully able, just like willing to turn himself in and over to him, just made them astonished for a bit.
The John version, they couldn't arrest Jesus. They fell down in terror, and Jesus said, "Get up, I'm he. Come on, take me. Do what you're supposed to do."
Yeah, what was with that?
Well, maybe they were like that because he put the ear back on.
No, well,
he said for a point.
I mean,
in Luke, he put the ear back on. I don't think John mentions that, but the idea that the world wanted to convict Jesus and couldn't. Jesus had to provide the evidence. Yes, I am the Messiah, and you're going to see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven, and so forth. And that was basically when they said, okay, well, that's blasphemy. Okay, now we've got our case against him. But what I'm concerned about in temptation, we think we're going to battle, and we're going to succeed, and we're going to say no. I think we need to take drastic action, as we said before, if we're feeling tempted. And I think we need to be wise and live our lives deliberately. But when we're putting it all on our shoulders to live that perfect life, we're overconfident.
Mm-hmm. You know, the other thing that you said the other day, and this just kind of stood in with me the whole entire week. But you said, and we won't mention the speaker's name or anything of that nature, but you were saying about the speaker that you texted me, saying this individual is going to send a lot of people to hell if they believe this message.
Yeah, it was very dangerous.
It's very dangerous. And the thing though is we can be tempted if we don't know the scriptures, and we can say, oh, this sounds right, this sounds good. But if we don't know that what that individual is saying is wrong, because my kids and me were having a fight today about how we're not as cool as other places are, and I said this song, and this is a different song, but I said this particular song is wrong because this song gives a false perception of Christianity and the gospel. So you can't listen to this song thinking that it's okay, just like people can't listen to that preacher thinking that it's okay.
Could you I'm sorry, keep going, sorry.
And so I was just stating that we can also be tempted to get our information from wrong sources and wrong places that we don't know.
Yeah, go to somewhere other than the Bible, you mean.
Well, it's the same thing. It's the overconfidence.
Yeah.
I know what I need to know to defeat this temptation. And when we have a humble approach to life, knowing we don't know everything, we're lifetime learners, and the scriptures are everything God gave us everything we need God gave us in the scriptures to be able to live a godly life for Him.
If I could interrupt you for a second here, I just want to cover all the bases here. What was that speaker talking about? Because just saying that a lot of people can go to hell, especially online, is a bad bad look.
It's worth talking about.
Before we start, can I add what you were... I had a point that I was just going to say. You said God will give us what we need. I was telling my kids today, well, just because God will give you what you need, you might think you might need an iPad. You might think you need a computer. You might think you need this new clothes. You might think this. God says that He will feed you and clothe you. It does not mean that He is going to give you everything you want, because that's just not what He's
felt needs versus needs.
Exactly. It says just because you think you need something doesn't mean it is. So I'm sorry. Just reiterate this point. But I said to my kids, I said, now we're American. We're also South African, but we're American. And you see. The thing though is there's a lot of places in the world that don't think that they need iPads and don't think that they need new toys and new clothes. They just think that they need food. And they view that scripture as God will give us what we need. God will give us food. God will give us water. God will give us clothes for our backs. So we can't Americanize what that message means. We have to know what that message means and not add to it, because we're good at adding to things, not slowing it down and saying this is what it actually means.
That's a good point. We're great at adding to things. You can see that was one of the biggest problems Jesus had with people in the Bible. That was his primary opposition, was people that added a bunch of things.
So the thing that I had sent Paul saying this is very dangerous was a sermon that was done by this super good looking, energetic young guy, very smooth talking. He's already a politician. He's at seminary. He's studying to be a pastor. He was
a politician pastor? Oh, jeez.
Yeah, he was filling the pulpit for his pastor.
Oh, okay.
He gave some really clever, cutesy jokes at the beginning, and they had the audience eating out of his hand. And then he talked about what he called Christian nationalism, and it makes a mockery of Jesus. It makes Jesus basically a right-wing fascist. He said some more colorful things, some of which I've said. I don't think church should be in control of government, right? Because that goes bad.
Government, our own government, when we founded it, had that idea too.
Yeah, government shouldn't be in charge of church. Yeah. Church should be church, responding to Jesus, and go. So this guy said, if we were a Christian nation, we would be paying off student debts, because that's what the Bible says. If we're a Christian nation, on and on. And it was really one Democrat talking point after another, bathed in this is Christian. And he said it so beautifully. He said it so beautifully, and he said enough truth in that sermon. But what he didn't say was people are sinful and they need Jesus.
Do you?
I can show you the link.
Ooh, well, we can't do it on this.
Oh yeah. No, I was just thinking, because
he had over 1 million shares in a very short amount of time. He had millions of comments. Everybody's comment was great except for mine. Are you sure about this? Think about that. My comments disappeared just like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean. Yeah.
But
if you post something online and get a lot of positive reactions, especially in a field like that, I feel like you might have done something wrong. I don't know. We particularly today, our message seems to be pretty inflammatory, despite being the exact same thing for thousands of years since the beginning of time. Since God created us, it's been the exact same message. But yeah,
sounds like fireworks out there.
That's what it sounds like.
Sounds like someone's having a party.
Firecrackers,
yeah.
little ones.
Yeah.
Or someone's shooting up the place.
I think it's the first one.
I feel like we'd be hearing a bit more yelling if someone was actually firing a gun. I'm gonna be honest with you. Anyways, so actually that's a good time to swap real fast here. So we have so we've discussed what we do when we succumb to temptation. Now, what is some stuff we should do or not do when we're victorious over temptation? Now, I can start this one off because I actually have notes for this question. As crazy as that sounds. Now, the one thing that immediately came to my mind with this was that even though we're momentarily victorious over temptation, we should not assume that we've overcome the devil for good by any means.
The battle's not over.
Yeah, he can be coming back in mere seconds, and you have no idea when that's going to happen.
And he's in your thoughts already saying, "Hey, I won! I got this thing! I'm victorious." Well, that
can also in itself be another stumbling block as well. Yeah, and so I've just written that we must be constantly on alert.
You have to be vigilant. 100%.
There's naturally, of course, I have reference for everything else up except for the point that I wanted to make here. Let's go. All right.
Well, while you're finding that point, I'll kind of illustrate your point. So, I had a friend. He's still a friend. I just haven't seen him in a while. But he was an alcoholic.
I love your socks, by the way.
Yeah, he was an alcoholic, and to the fullest degree, he would wake up in the morning and he'd have his choice liquor, and that would start his day. And then he'd have maybe something to eat, and he'd come to work, and then he'd have it in the toilets at work and wherever else he needed it to get it all the way through the day, and then until he went to sleep at night. So, and at some point it began to affect his, and he drove with it. He drove drunk more often than he drove sober.
Wow.
Yeah, to the point where it was actually difficult for him to drive sober. And so it became to the point where it started affecting his job. Like, he would come in late for work, he'd leave early, he would do, things like that, missing time. And to the point where, the boss was ready to fire him, even though he was one of our best machinists. And so I said, well, you know what, I'm going to just try to get this guy clean because he's a good guy, so on and so forth. And so I went all in to try and get him clean, get him off of alcohol. I literally started staying over at his house for days, to try to keep him off the alcohol.
Oh, dang.
And it's incredibly difficult for someone whose body has become that accustomed to alcohol.
Got the shakes.
I have
shakes and a lot worse.
I mean, I have heard though that cold turkey is pretty much the only way to actually knock it. So.
That might kill you.
Yeah, in some cases.
Oh, really?
It will.
Yeah,
in some cases.
what he's talking about, it can kill you.
I was finally, I almost lost my job, but I was finally able to get him clean, and he had been clean for close to 3 years. In fact, he had married a friend of mine, and they were having a child together.
Oh, nice.
And then, so he was fairly confident in his sobriety at that point in time, and and so it was the night that his daughter was born. Picked it up. Just one celebration drink. Because he had overcome it. He was no longer an alcoholic. And you know how fast he went right back?
Oh, boy.
Full in.
Yeah.
Full in. Within days.
Yeah.
And that's been a roller coaster of his life over and over again. He gets sober, he gets clean, and then one thing will trip him up because he loses that focus. He loses that. He becomes confident in himself that he can continue to do that.
Yeesh, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, that does tie into what I had here. I just had 1 Peter 5:8 1 Peter 5:8 and 9. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour.
Yep.
Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings. And then there's also, if you had something to say to that. I also had just 1 Corinthians 10:12, pretty short here. So if you think you're standing firm, be careful that you don't fall.
Yeah.
That's the entire verse.
That's it in a nutshell right there.
So just because you think you're standing firm and have gotten over it doesn't exactly mean that you have.
There was adding to what Pastor Brian was saying, I also grew up in friends that I knew whose parents were alcoholics, and you saw what the alcohol did to them. And so it's kind of like that your one friend was saying, hey, don't tell me to drink or I'm not going to talk to you.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing with, it was me and then all the miscellaneous friends of the parents. We would be like, we don't want that stuff because we see the results of it. We see what happens. Mm-hmm. So you couldn't tempt us with it because we saw the destruction, and it was just chaos that it created.
And I think that's the thing too. That's a crux of temptation is like a skewing of the actual truth. And for somebody that has seen the truth firsthand, no amount of supposed skewing is actually going to be able to change what they know to be true and have seen. Mm-hmm. And I think that could be a reason why like relatives of alcoholics and stuff are able to resist it so easily as opposed to them, is because they know the truth behind it, know that there's no shot anything good can really come of it if drunk in like that quantity over that amount of time and stuff like that. And so they're like literally just know there is no, I will not do this.
Right.
That's just something that I've actually been thinking about recently.
So the person that is firmly against alcohol because they've seen it devastate the lives of people they care about, and they have no temptation, you're never going to get them to drink, and they go their whole life without drinking, that's a success. However, we're all sinners. Mm-hmm. We're all broken. Some other aspect,
somewhere else.
You may be super strong in resisting alcohol, super weak in resisting something else.
Yeah.
And so I think the thing to do is to keep reminding yourself you don't know everything. Mm. You got to continue to learn, seek God for things, be humble, and if you have a humble, teachable heart and you're moving in the right direction, God will open up your eyes to areas where you're weaker, and you can seek to be diligent in that area of your life. I think we're probably all failing every day in some area we haven't been enlightened to. Yeah. I can remember my professor saying something to me. He said, John, is the sun going to come up tomorrow? Can you tell me why? And I said, sure. I've seen the sun come up every day. And tomorrow's going to be another day, and the sun's going to come up. Mm-hmm. And then he said to me, well, I've lived, or I think I said I lived 30 years, and the sun's always come up, so it's going to continue to come up. He said, well, I've lived 60 years, and I've never seen anyone who died come back to life. I've never seen anyone get old and not succumb to death. So I'm going to say that the dead can't rise. And, I mean, he got me. I was thinking in humanistic John terms rather than really thinking in biblical terms. And instantly that, the angel chorus come down, my mind is thinking now, and I realized, man, I have a lot to learn. And I was in seminary at that point.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Everybody's got stuff to learn still. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude here, but I'm sure you still have stuff that
exactly.
you've got to learn.
Knowing that we still have much to learn, we haven't arrived at our plateau of knowledge, I think is necessary for the person who has had victory over temptation. There's some area in your life you haven't learned.
Yeah.
And then also those who have failed in temptation. Yeah. I guess I was overconfident. I'm going to learn from that mistake. And the next time I'm not going to be so confident in myself. I'm going to depend more on the Lord. Or I could set up a accountability group, Hey guys, I struggle with XYZ. Can you help me pray about this? And I don't know if you struggle with that too. We can kind of support each other through it. A humble approach is much better for than the bold approach. I got this.
Yeah. This tied into something earlier, but maybe you find a way to do something with what I say most of the time. So I think we'll be fine here. But I've noticed too, again, now that I've started taking my faith a lot more seriously, one thing that I've been particularly I would say struggling with is just trying to keep God in my mind, and just be thinking about Him at all times, because I'm not sure if that's a necessity, but I think it's important, definitely, to at least be conscious of God's presence and being there the entire time.
I think that helps a lot too, because it helps you keep your mind on focus and try to
run
away from temptation.
That I've noticed, is when I'm actually just thinking about God, being like, okay, He's here, and for one thing, actually off topic, but it makes it a lot easier to pray too, knowing He's just sitting right next to you the entire time.
All the time.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier to actually just pray, and but yeah. Anyways, on top of that, it sounds strange, but I hope you'll be able to understand what I'm saying. I feel, what was it? I feel bad when I'm not thinking about it, if you know what I mean. Like, I feel like I've had the opportunities to go astray without potentially even realizing it if I'm not thinking about God and realizing His presence.
What is the nature of your thought when you're thinking about God?
Just trying
are you rolling in your mind thoughts that God is here, I've got to serve God constantly? Because I don't do that. I mean, I hope God is my go-to. When I come to a trouble, that's where my mind goes. But I'm also engaged in conversation with people, and I'm thinking, how can I help you?
Yeah, okay. I should probably clarify that a bit. Yeah, it's not so much a constant roll with it, as much as it is just like, if I look out and I see that it's a nice dad, I want to just be able to just be like, one of my first thoughts is just like, oh, thank you, God, for a great day, or something like that, you know what I mean? Like, I want to kind of have that be like the first stuff I think about,
Well, Scripture said God is evident in all of His creation, so when
I want to be able to fully realize that, if that makes sense.
As you appreciate His creation, the nature, the singing of the birds and the sunrise and everything else, you're appreciating God.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be, I guess in kind of a smaller scale, if my wife is gone and she's left some applesauce bread muffins on the stove, and I happen to enjoy those those muffins. Yeah. Then I'm appreciating her, even if I'm not directly telling her, hey, this is really good, and things like that. So
and He's not appreciating us because He's not bringing us in.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, can we all appreciate her by having some of these?
All right, honey, if you're watching. And so
you have his wife's number, right?
I do.
I'll text her this.
If, that's what I'm saying. It's not always a deliberate thought. I mean,
okay.
I've had times where I've literally just walked around in circles with Jesus under my arm, like just talking to him. I'm sure I look like a crazy person, but there's those times, yes. But there's other times when it's just very subtle, just having him in your life, just appreciating the things that he does for you, around you, just enjoying them.
You know, I was going to say though, I was going to go back to what Matt was saying. Myself, I try to have thoughts of Christ and God in my brain, but as I go around the day, he vanishes because, like, you have to go to work and do the stuff that you do at work, and you have to go take the kids to this place or do this or do that, and so therefore, I mean, he may still be there, but it's harder because your mind has other things to do and it fights for your attention. So, I mean, some people may not have God just pops up here or there or when or this or that, or, hey, I'm having a bad day. But some people may actually...
The Bible calls this prayer. I mean, that's basically what it is. It's prayer. Prayer is your awareness of, your talking to, your appreciation of, you're thinking about God.
Yeah, it's something to me just doesn't sound right about just, like, willingly and for extended periods of time just disappearing.
Praying at all time. Pray without ceasing.
I think what you were saying about, like, him kind of vanishing for a while because of life and stuff like that. I mean, that does happen.
Right.
Like, a lot, and I know it happens all the time, probably every day in my own life.
Right. Well, when you're in a test, you're focusing on what you have to do to get to that test.
I mean, I know it's a practical thing. It just, I don't know. It just sounds weird when you just say it explicitly like that, you know?
What I believe pray without ceasing means is have regular prayer times. Develop a discipline of prayer in your life. It doesn't mean you're constantly praying. It doesn't mean that every thought, every minute of the day is consciously about God and you're talking to Him in it, but you're actually organizing your life around a prayer life. You have a prayer life that, and I'm not good at this. I'll wake up, I'll be doing some things because I got business to do, and I'll be, oh wait, I forgot to pray.
And also, too, he wakes up and he's hungry.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, who doesn't wake up and
no doubt.
What I'm saying is, sometimes we'll go out for breakfast, and he'll give me the text, I'm hungry.
Exactly. I mean, you got other things to do.
His mind is on
food.
My bosses make fun of me now because I always show up with like a 10-pack of Timbits and a coffee from Tim Hortons.
So, to have the thing you're talking about in your life, where you've got an awareness of God, a presence of God in your life, you're appreciating things because of God, and all of this, it really is a prayer life.
Yeah.
It's and you're not expected to pray 24/7. You got to sleep for 8 hours a day or so. You gotta drive your car. If some kid walks out in front of your car, and you don't close your eyes and pray, whoa, you step on the brake. So have regular prayer times.
Yeah.
Okay.
Develop in your life a habit of regular prayers, regular devotionals, and prayer is, I think, the thing that you're going.
So you're saying constant as
the
in
things that you hadn't, you can say, okay, now it's been 2 hours since I prayed. Okay, now I have some time. I'm gonna talk to God, and then you're gonna talk about those 2 hours.
And
interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
And as well too, you might actually talk to God during that test. You might say, "Help! Help!" You know. But you might also be so focused that you know what you're doing, and you know what I'm saying.
God was a lot smarter on them tests than I was. I'm telling you.
So I think I imagine it is a benefit when someone is feeling tempted to have that regular prayer time. You could this is arbitrary, but you could say, okay, 10 minutes after I wake up, I'm praying. Every meal, I'm praying. And half hour before I go to bed, I'm praying. And that becomes a habit in your life. The structure of your life is built around that. And then temptation comes. and you've got that.
You know, the thing though too is if somebody has like this thing that they pray a half hour before they go to bed, you know, if the person's really tired and they fall asleep, you know, and they don't pray, they shouldn't beat themselves up for it. They can pray in the morning.
Jesus said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Exactly.
So,
quick pause.
Yep.
I forgot to mention 3.5 minutes left. So
Awesome.
Oh my goodness.
wrap some stuff up.
Yeah.
But yeah. See, this is what happens when we're actually on a timer. Is
Yeah.
we're like, oh shoot, it's actually been
It's
40
like
minutes
slamming
now.
your foot on the brake when a kid's basketball rolls out in front of your car.
That's kind of a morbid example, but okay, yeah. I mean, sure.
I think that was a good concept that when you succeed, the battle's not over.
Yeah.
When you fail, God still loves you.
Yeah.
It's just a victorious win one time, but the enemy's going to come at you harder.
Essentially, this whole battle that you're having with prayer just sums up exactly what we were talking about with you know, where we started with the, you know, if Satan's condemning you about something, it's not God. That's Satan going, hey, trying to kick you in the teeth and get you off track.
Oh.
And if it's God,
Yeah.
he's rewarding you and he's encouraging you to do better and saying, you know what, I'm just going to lift you up and we're going to do it better next time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
after the podcast, I have a situation that kind of matches this. I was gonna.
I do want to suggest some people believe you got to go through penance. Oh, I failed again. I'll pray for an hour and then I'll feel good about myself and I'll move on with my life. God just wants you. You acknowledge your failure, love him back. He's not ever going to stop loving you.
Yeah.
And
There is something so comforting about not only having a God that loves me, but also a God that is all-knowing and still loves me. You
Yeah,
know what
exactly.
I mean? Like he knows
Good
the
point.
amount. He knows the amount of effort or the lack thereof that I put into it.
Yeah.
So if I fail after putting up a really strong fight, I can go to God and be like, God, I confess I sinned, but I really made him fight for it. You know what I mean? And just stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I
excellent.
think that's a very comforting thing. And honestly, I think that's another place to cap off an episode. We are actually going to have probably our first episode that's under 45 minutes. You're welcome, guys.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone, again, for showing up to another episode of People in the Room. We're probably staying on temptation for another few.
Yeah, so
Probably
go
not.
have,
There's
like
a lot
two
more to
episodes or
say. We
something
got
like that,
several thoughts.
so go have a cake pop.
So, yeah. Huh? What? What are you
Cake
talking
pop.
about?
Cake pops.
What's with cake pops?
They're
I
yummy.
like cake
Isn't
pops.
that
I do,
tempting?
yeah.
It's tempting.
I mean,
I'm
sure,
so
I
square.
guess.
What is a kick pop? I have no
It's like
clue.
it's a lollipop, except it's like cake instead.
And it's like
Oh,
got
a
like
cake pop.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cake pop, and it's got, you know, a little fudge on the
How
outside.
many calories
That's
does
a-
it have?
Oh, way too
More-
many.
more
Like
than
way
two.
more than a meal.
How good
for a
is it?
cake pop. It's really good,
Oh,
but
wow.
holy cow, you hit your daily
Temptation?
caloric
Oh, my
intake on like
goodness.
half of those.
That's why it's temptation.
Yeah. Anyways, besides the cake pop thing, which we gotta buy some next time. Thanks everyone so much for showing up to yet another episode of People in the Room. Love and appreciate all y'all. God bless, and we will see you in the next one.
All right.